All right, I think YouTube's good to go. As I was saying, a lot of TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, Druski, it's all coming together into one giant kerfuffle. But we'll go straight into the Druski skit that was just published yesterday. So I won't pause it, but I'll just say, starting off real strong for conservative audiences. It doesn't even matter how good or bad the skit is. Conservative audiences already pissed by some of this language.
War is raging in Iran.
We're praying for all the soldiers and troops.
That's great that you're praying, but
how about all the kids that died when the USA hit the towers?
It broke my heart. That is the
In what ways have you grown closer to Jesus?
I serve a righteous God. And that is why we say our prayers.
He's even got the contacts in. I was saying this earlier. He's got the blue contacts in, which, by the way, those are not comfortable to wear. This guy went all the way. Look at the hands, too. Look at the hands are even painted. Those aren't gloves, so is it just like a skin paint? Because that looks really good. That does not look, take the face out of it. That looks like a regular woman.
All his children. But when I say children, I mean like the Holy Blessed Trinity, which is why I hold the Bible.
Going from holding a Bible and talking about the Trinity to a rap concert. These comments, by the way, we're gonna review the comments in a minute, especially on X where this was posted originally. 165 million views, by the way.
Sweet cream foam chai ice matcha.
Matcha.
And Bella will have all organic.
Organic.
Yes, everything organic.
Organic. If you don't know, this is, of course, this right here, if you don't know, you need to know. Impersonating live Erika after her husband died at the event at that stadium. Little context for you.
Are you good? 4, 3, 2. Hold your chest lifted. We're gonna lift.
We have to protect all men in America, especially all white men in America. Those are the boys that we care about.
So this is a multi-location skit, by the way. They did multiple setups, backdrops, actors, actresses, everything. They went all the way. Are those landmines that he's using as a podium prop? What is he holding up? I don't know what that is. That doesn't look like a mic to me, but...
Out in this country, America is built on their backs. Yes. Because they are the ones who mattered most.
Get on your feet.
4. War is raging in Iran.
We're praying.
I let it loop there for a second. A lot of people reacted to that. X is a war zone. Conservative pundit even commented on the skit. And I have a lot of stuff pulled up here, but the reactions, oh man. So this user, Ubo Kudum, asked Rock, which is X's AI, who this is. You know, obviously a screenshot of Druski, and Grok said, that's Erika Kirk, the actress comedian starring in Druski's satirical skit, identifying Druski with makeup as Erika Kirk. A lot of people not so happy about the skit. This is a tough one for maybe some people, not really for me. There's a balancing act between being, whatever you are, conservative or right-leaning or Republican, and the freedom of speech and comedy and all that. And this one really walks that line, I guess you would say. I'm conservative. Going personal though is he's gonna get what's coming to him. It's not gonna come from me. I don't really care. If I knew Erika, maybe I'd feel differently about it. If it was someone that I knew who was going through somebody. But it's like, how soon is too soon? I always joked with my friends, if I die, the first person to make everyone laugh at my funeral gets all my inheritance. So that shows you how much I care about being sensitive to stuff. But not everyone is the same. I've met people that are like, you can't say that. You can't say that. Yeah, you can. I don't think there's any joke. I hold more of a Ricky Gervais kind of stance on it, that there is no joke that can't be said. There's no joke that's too far. It's a matter of taste. If you do it right, any joke can work. If you do it wrong, any joke can fail. And, it was all right. I like some of the Druski stuff. This one, I'll leave it up to y'all. But Grok identifying this as Erika Kirk is interesting. It makes sense to me, but it's interesting. And then, of course, on Newsweek, I hate all of these outlets, dude. It's just abysmal. Do I even need to say much about this reporter? You can look at the photo and you know what kind of reporting you're getting. Writes a little, what is it called, an op-ed, an opinion piece on the skit and the happenings of everything. And that's one thing. I skimmed the top part of it. The reason why I found out about her was because of a YouTube short, which was of interest to me because I watched it and I was like, oh, and it just came, this just published like minutes ago, and covering this Druski event.
The late conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been targeted in the late.
The very first thing I noticed, this is a Newsweek official short. This is their official channel. Look down here, bottom left-hand corner. Newsweek official. The moment I saw this short, it's just the condescending, smug nature of liberals. It's a liberal thing. It's exclusively, they are so smug when bad things happen to Republicans or conservative. It's so condescending and annoying. Just this entire short she has, you don't even have to watch, it doesn't matter. She's talking about what happened. The entire short, she just has this smug look on her face like, finally, we got one over on these dirty Republicans. Oh, it just, you know what, as Stewie's dad would say, Peter Griffin would say, grinds my gears. Looking for a response out of Erika, didn't really find one, was kind of curious, and then there was rumors about a cease and desist. Nothing really out of her or her media people, so maybe taking it on a chin, don't really, it doesn't bother her. Maybe she's got better things to do. Who knows? Or maybe she's seething. Hard to say. Then here's the Forbes article about Forbes going the AI route. Forbes is like, everyone's got an angle. What's our angle? Grok. What did Grok say about it? So this is just the article about the fact that Grok misidentified. There's a whole article about the fact that Grok misidentified Druski for Erika in the makeup, of course. This right here is what I'm speaking about. Misidentifying Druski with makeup for Erika Kirk. Kind of entertaining. Moving right along. So you may have noticed when I first opened up, Turning Point USA, what's the future going to be? The numbers going down, of course, makes sense. Any show that has a star, you're going to lose some numbers. So I've been curious, been keeping, not tabs on it, but curious what the future of that organization is going to be. And Will Witt, who is a guy from way back in the day. I used to watch a lot of his stuff. He's very composed, very soft-spoken, very articulate, and very smart when it comes to a lot of these social issues. He has 2 videos as of yesterday on the official Turning Point USA channel. I have not watched them, and I think that we will watch them together. No idea what the future is going to be. I don't even know if he's officially replacing them, but it's of interest to me. So let's watch this together.
What's your stance on systematic racism?
It doesn't exist.
It what?
That it doesn't exist.
Okay. Okay. So, my stance is that systematic racism does exist because of our history. So,
Okay.
for black, brown, Asian people, whatever, our history supports the fact that systematic racism exists because today.
Because history, bruh. Systematic racism exists because history, bruh. That's our entire argument so far. What are we in? 2 minutes in? That's our whole argument? All right.
It doesn't exist independently of our past and of our family's past. So they've experienced racism in the past. That's a truth. So today we are a product of their past experiences.
So what does that mean?
What
I'm a
does that
product
mean?
of the past experiences of my family and generations that horrible things happen to.
Are you
and I'm
asking
not
me
sitting
to
here.
give you an example?
No, I'm not asking for an example. I'm asking what you can do, what I can do that you can't do. Because
That's not what I'm saying. I can do everything
but you
that
are
you
saying
can
you're
do. Absolutely.
Well, then what is the problem?
The problem.
Okay, these are so hard to get through. Their arguments start and end before you can eat. They're so hard to watch. Now, I want to grant a lot of these people are shaking. If you watch their hands, they're shaking during these interviews, and it's kind of if you're not used to public speaking, it's a scary thing. So you have to grant them that a little bit of grace, and most of them aren't coming prepared. As someone who studies this stuff, like Witt or like a Charlie Kirk, who is constantly sharpening their talents, sharpening their blade, so to speak. Maybe poor metaphor there, but honing their skills as far as debate and their knowledge is concerned. And then you can have somebody off the street that's like, I disagree with this firmly, but they don't have the data, they don't have the history, they don't have any actual information to offer other than I'm angry about it. And so you got to offer them a little grace. It's scary to go up to a microphone if you're not a speaker. It's scary if you don't have information. I always said knowledge inspires confidence. The more knowledge you have, the more confident you will feel. A lot of these people, they just feel a certain way and they don't have a lot to say. So, grant them that. But still, when you get up there and you're like, I disagree, there's such thing as and then your reference is just trust me, bro. And then
that there's
hard to
people
watch
around me, and people that were talking to that. We're laughing at that lady earlier. I did not laugh at a single thing that you said because I respect you. I don't think that these people respect the woman that was up here earlier. The ones that are laughing, the ones that think it's funny that I think racism is real, that's real. Can you turn around and tell someone that's experienced racism that that's funny?
Listen, people can find these things funny if they like. It's not the end of the world.
Racism is not funny. It's not a joke.
So we were just talking about this at the beginning of the stream. It's kind of funny. I said you're gonna have a group, and I know these people. I know both sides. Okay, you're gonna have a group of people. Which one do we want to start with? So you're gonna have a group of people in the conservative, even in the liberal end, that just cannot take a joke. You're gonna have you can't joke about, like this lady. You can't joke about that. I met someone that long time known this person. Won't say any names. So vehemently felt that you cannot joke about everything. I feel very strongly you can joke, that anything is open. Ricky Gervais said there's nothing you can't joke about. It's just it's a matter of taste. Okay, if something is done well, you can make a joke about anything. I mean, literally. Watch some of Andrew Tate. Not Andrew Tate. I have a clip of him later that we'll cover. Andrew, the comedian. I'm blanking right now. We're just going to move past it. There's a famous comedian named Andrew. He does live stand-up, all that stuff. He has a balancing act that he does. Why can't I remember his name? It doesn't matter right now. But he does a balancing act, and he'll cover any topic. Ricky Gervais is good at that stuff. I mean, yeah, so you're going to have people that are upset over jokes that aren't stand-up, they're not interested in stand-up, they're not interested in comedy. And then you'll have the other side. Let's just take the conservative box. You're gonna have conservatives that can't take a joke, that like get super offended and whole respect matters and all this stuff. And then you're gonna have the Republicans that can take a joke, the Republicans that have a sense of humor. You're gonna have it on both sides. This would be the other category of liberal left side that can't take a joke. Those people are everywhere. Racism is not funny. Racism is hilarious. Feminism is hilarious. It's just how good you craft your joke. I mean, there's few topics that get as many laughs as... And they're... Schultz. Andrew Schultz does an impeccable job at the race stuff. Chris D'Elia is another one. It's a matter of making fun of people in a way where they feel... There was Chris D'Elia had a improv set where he was making fun of, I think it was it wasn't Iranians, it was, I don't think it was Pakistanis, but he had been to the restaurant that they had, and I don't know, he had been to he had a bit of knowledge, and he had some experience in their community and in their culture a little bit, I think from touring. And so he knew enough to know what would make them laugh. And so he told a joke just for them, and the group of Iranians or Pakistanis were dying of laughter because he knew what it was probably the three of them in that room actually knew what they were talking about. And it was a joke in good taste. He was roasting them for their culture, but it's a matter of taste. If you just say, oh, I don't like this person, it's like, okay, it's not really funny. If you make a joke about their culture, that shows that, hey, I know what this is, and it's funny. It's great comedians turn a mirror on yourself. Doesn't matter what race. You turn a mirror on the audience and say, look how ridiculous you are. And it doesn't matter what the subject is. As long as you do that well, people are going to laugh.
Come on.
No,
what is
no,
the question?
No, hold on. There's nothing funny about... There's nothing funny.
So, I'm here to state that systematic racism is real, regardless.
So far, he's doing a really good job of... What Charlie does is staying on track and being respectful. So she's got like a point to say, and she's probably pretty emotional. But he's doing a good job of keeping her on track if you watch it 5 seconds ago.
To state that systematic racism is real, regardless of your experience as a white man.
So prove me the systemic racism is real.
What?
Prove it to me.
Prove you what?
What you're saying. You're saying systemic racism is real.
Yes.
So how is it real?
Okay. So I can give you...
Normally it's the crickets that get you, but it's the birds that got... It's much more peaceful, the background behind her.
An example of something that would prove, I believe, as an example, that systematic racism is real.
One example.
Something that you discussed earlier was gangs, I suppose, in black culture. Mm-hmm. I believe firmly that that is an example of systematic racism occurring today. Gangs don't exist because that's something that people want to be a part of.
I'm going to take this one, Will. What are you talking about? How does that have anything to do with race or a system that... Gangs are... You got to get in them. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? How is that a system of racism that has a bias towards one? They just exist.
Things don't exist because that's something that people want to be a part of. That's not something that's...
You shouldn't want to be a part of them. I would agree with you. That's a great point. You shouldn't want to be, but they do. That's incorrect. That's why people are willing to get beat up. And it's actually what's tragic about gangs. People are willing to get beat up to become a part of them. That is how, I'm feeling it. That is how desperate people are to be a part of a community. I have said this before. I will say it again. I will probably most likely go to the grave saying it. The most tragic thing in low-income communities and black communities are a lack of community, are a lack of family, and are a lack of fatherhood. Because they knock a woman up, they split, the child has nowhere to go. Statistically, this is all data-driven. Go look up single-parent households. Go look up the rate of gangs. Who joins gangs? It's kids without a dad. It's sad. It is a disgusting... And the government goes, back in the 80s and the 70s, hey, leave your man, we'll give you money. We got you. We'll pay you to leave your man. It is one of the most egregious things we've done against our own people. And by the way, just to be very clear, I don't see a line between blacks and whites in this topic. We are Americans. So we as Americans have done this to ourselves, regardless of, and yeah, you have the trailer trash that happens to them as well. Anytime you have a kid that's growing up, a male, growing up without a dad, he looks for a sense of community and is willing to get beat up by a bunch of dudes. It's not going to be pleasant. What do they call it? When you get jumped in? I think it's called getting jumped in or initiation. That's how desperate people are for a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of, what's the word? Vin Diesel, give it to us. Family. That's how desperate these kids are for a community. And it's tragic.
Someone grows up to become. That's not a goal in mind.
So white people force black people to be in gangs.
It's easier to control people, I believe.
Okay, so how did white people force black people to be in gangs?
This is what I just said moments ago. There's no white people forcing black. It's not even a racial thing. There's no anyone forcing anyone to be in a gang. Gangs came up because they had to unite against the government structure in place because they wanted to abide by their own desires. They wanted to do things that weren't legal. So they banded together and they were like, hey, if we organize and orchestrate, we can get more done. That's all it is. It's just like the prohibition. Hey, if we organize, we can get some alcohol to people.
Poverty is a big example.
So white people made all the black people poor.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. We start from very different
How did we do that?
Perspectives.
So because we had different perspectives, we made all the black...
So I want to say shout out to Caden. What's going on? Flubnorg. Ladies and gentlemen, best from either side of the Mississippi. Welcome to everybody. We had, I think we had 5 people in here. We got 3 people in there now. Appreciate you joining. We're covering a lot of the Druski. We kind of went on a tangent from the Druski drama. Yesterday, Druski, popular comedian, posted a skit making fun of Erika Kirk. We went from that into Erika Kirk, of course, being involved with TPUSA, which is her husband, Charlie Kirk's organization. And TPUSA has had a very big, prominent effect on colleges and young Americans. And so we went from that into what we're doing now, which is TPUSA brought in Witt, which is a popular social media influencer, political commentator from years and years ago, 5-10 years plus. I was a big fan of his growing up. I don't know what happened to him for the last 5-10 years. I guess he was doing his own thing. Writing books, I actually saw he became an author. And so that's how we're in this tangent here of TPUSA is now bringing him on board. I don't know if it's temporary or long-term. It'd be very interesting to see if Witt is able to take the role that Charlie Kirk was in, because Witt is articulate, he's thoughtful, he's soft-spoken. We'll see. I hope that he continues his partnership with TPUSA.
People poor?
So, slavery. Let's talk about slavery. Black Americans.
Slavery was
No. I'm talking. So, Black Americans. Okay. I'm gonna do what you did to her. Okay. If you're okay with that.
Please.
I'm gonna talk over you. Okay. So, Black people were slaves in the past. We'll just say that. In the past, we had a huge slavery problem in America. Okay. And they made absolutely no income. And then the people that still live here are descendants of those people that
Right,
had
they're
no
descendants,
education.
But just because they're
that had
descendants
no...
of slaves doesn't mean that they...
I'm going to take the reins for this lady. There's a lot of damage done to the black community. That damage doesn't get fixed overnight, which is why we have black scholarships that are exclusively available to black kids or black young adults. I thought about this growing up. You know, you hear about these scholarships that only multicultural people can get, whatever you want to call it. And it's like these people were hurt for so long. It's hard to say that, well, just get over it. well, just make something of yourself. Now, a lot of the people I respect did just make something of themselves, regardless of their background. They come from nothing. They come from the ghetto. But as far as the culture is concerned and what has been done to that people group, they were hurt for many years. And I understand that that kind of thing doesn't just get fixed in 1 or 2 generations. However, I think that's why Jesus' message is so important, that you're supposed to treat others as you have been treated. I remember growing up, there was never any cultural or racial talk ever mentioned. We're all Americans, that's it. We're all churchgoers, that's it. We're all, those are some categories that I heard about. But it was never, we're in this together. And you're to treat others as you would want to be treated. So if you know that a people group, and that's kind of always how this was just kind of how I thought about it in the back of my head, and I never said it. I mean, I'm much older than I look. I'll put it that way. So this is in the back of my head for over 20 years, which is that, okay, there's a group of people that were really hurt, so I should just be nice to them. That's it. And you might not understand the culture or understand what happened in their life, but that's kind of how Jesus told us to treat everyone. Have patience, be kind. Particularly for men, you need to be on your guard and be paying attention, in certain situations. You can't just be ignorant and go into a dangerous situation or a dangerous community if you don't understand the culture, understand the area. But yeah, it's baffling, these people that are like, I'll shut up.
You have things that struggle from slavery today.
Sorry,
my relatives or ancestors were indentured servants in Ireland and in America that were treated even worse than some slaves, black African slaves, because it's like you're leasing a car, so you treat it like garbage. That's how they treated many of the Irish indentured servants in this country. I'm not sitting here complaining about how horrible it was. I'm my own person, able to make my own decisions. So what can I do that you can't do? If you're saying there's systemic racism, that means that you, as a different race...
And I think that's where those scholarships that I mentioned come into play. Okay, you have a community that was it wasn't even, they didn't even allow it hardly to be a community, They were not treated as humans, and then all of a sudden they were, treated as many years it took to get to that point, but okay, all of a sudden they get citizenship, they get humanhood, all of these things. Well, they're not going to overnight become a best-selling author, so how do you help them? Well, education isn't the worst place to start. Involving them in the church should have been happening all along, and looking at them as one with Christ through what Christ did, and not as and there's plenty of churches in the South, and there was plenty of racism in the South, so that's a big knock on the church. For me, I don't look at a lot of these issues through the lens of, government is the savior, because they're not. Government is the worst way to save a community. Yeah, hopefully we can do some work with scholarships and all that, but when I see a topic, I run it through the lens of the church. How are we supposed to get involved with racial issues? How are we supposed to get involved with political issues like abortion? Well, there's a lot that can be said, but I think one of the first places to start is call out evil, sure. But also, if there's a woman that is hurting, who has been left by a man and is pregnant and doesn't know where to turn, our responsibility as the church is to take that person in, give her everything that she could possibly need, and be there for her, which is a crappy substitute for a husband, but to take her in and give her everything she could possibly need to be a strong, independent mother, capable of raising a child in a home that has food in it, in a home that is secure. That would be our responsibility as the church. I don't look to the government for the answers. Sure, there's a lot of power and capability that the government has, but as a believer, I think you should run through the lens of, how should I, not just some organization or club or powerful entity, How should I treat this person in my community? This person who is living a sinful life, who is a woman who is abandoned by her partner. Do I go, well, you get what you deserve. You were hanging out with that guy. We all said you guys are sinning. You aren't supposed to be doing that. Yeah, I mean, there's a time and place for calling out sin, but if she's hurting, if she's been left, you extend the olive branch. That's what Jesus did. He didn't hang out with cool people. He hung out with the tax collectors. I mean, imagine a worse person than the tax collector. I mean, that's the IRS today. You want to hang out with somebody who's the IRS? I don't think so, especially if you're not a business person. Or maybe you do, and then you can get the in. But he hung out with the losers, with the sinners, the failures, all of that. The harlot at the well. It's not an easy line to clearly differentiate from between grace and justice, but Jesus came to forgive and save. Forgive and save.
Or gender, whatever it is, can't do what I can do.
Okay.
So what can you do?
Can I address your point about the Irish indentured servants?
Sure.
Okay. So, Irish indentured servants...
You're white, so it doesn't count.
They came to the United States. Yes, it was equivalent, more or less equivalent, the treatment of poor Irish and black people. However, there was... So it did happen that Irish white men in particular were sought at to become eventually the not slave owners, but I guess the people that, if anyone can help me out.
Look, they were treated like garbage, and the point is that
No.
as an Irish, half part Irish, I'm not complaining about that. That's okay. These things happened in my ancestors' life, but I'm not them. And you're not your ancestors. You have choices that you can make.
I don't know my ancestors. I don't know who they were, because my history was taken away from me as well. I don't know those people.
So there's no history. You don't know history, but apparently there's systemic racism because of history.
I know
How does that make any sense?
general history. I don't know my person.
By the way, this is normally when I click out of these things. It's so hard to watch. It's so hard to watch.
Personal history.
Okay.
Okay.
But again, going back to the main point, what can I do that you can't do?
We can't go back to the main point when I was making a point earlier about Irish indentured servants. Sorry, I'm going to hone in on this because there is a point there that I'm trying to make. Irish indentured servants were treated differently than black people.
Yes.
She's telling him about his history. If he tried to do that about her history, just imagine it flipped. Doesn't go so well.
In many cases, they were treated worse.
They were sought after to discipline black slaves. So they became they became the people that eventually upheld slavery. They were able to align with other whites because they're similar by skin color. They were able to align with each other more easily. Whereas there were of course differences in religion, for example, or heritage, because they're Irish and Catholic.
Okay, but prove to me that systemic racism, regardless of that point, just prove to me that systemic racism is here in America today.
Yeah, so
just give me one example of systemic racism here in America today.
I did give you that example. Gangs. They exist because of systemic racism. I disagree with your premise that because gangs are not because of systemic racism. I believe they are, and not only believe, but I believe
to be in those gangs.
I gave you evidence to support that.
Do you not?
But
believe
you're not
that those
listening
men
to me.
Make choices to be in gangs?
Huh?
So those men don't make the choice to be in the gang. They're forced into it.
Are forced to by circumstance in many cases.
No, you're not
to become
forced
parts
to,
of gangs.
You're not.
Okay, so I see what she's getting at here. Her argument is weak beyond belief. It would not hold up under a single ounce of pressure. But I see what she's getting at here. And it's an argument that a buddy of mine brings to me quite often, which is when you have a community that's beaten down, crime goes up because there's not a lot of options or opportunity. Yeah? Yeah. So give them opportunity. Give them tools. Help them. Scholarship funds are one of those ways that we talked about earlier. There's a lot of ways to do that. Bringing business in. People don't like to talk about it, but Trump tried to do that. He incentivized business. He gave tax breaks if they would build in low-income communities.
Forced by circumstance to be in a gang. That is such a cop-out. And you're basically saying these black people have no way out, and they're not smart enough to go and do something else with their life. That's what you're essentially implying by saying that they can't do it. There are plenty of people who are in the hood who had these people who are around them, and they've been able to get out and get out of despondency. And that's incredible because they have that character and that courage to go and do that.
I agree.
No one is forcing that person to be in a gang. Now, good, granted, the culture in there, in those communities, makes it seem like, oh man, I got to do this. And I understand what you're saying, you know, but with a little education, a little knowledge, and want to better yourself, it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. But that's not because of systemic racism from white people making black people this way.
All right, so that's video one. We got one other video to cover. A lot of similarities in Will and Charlie.
So there's a sign that says DEI is racist, and I want you to elaborate on that because I'm a little confused.
Yeah. So essentially, DEI.
Let's stop it. Let's stop it right there. Just started it. Let's stop it just for 1 second. She's not confused. She thinks she's gonna get a one big wallop. Yeah. Very condescending. Let me just stop you right there, white boy.
Basically tells people that your skin color, your immutable characteristics about you, are more important than your character and your merit. Would you agree with that? What do you think is more important, you being your race or
I think me being a black woman is important to who I am.
Okay, but what's more important?
Me being a black woman.
Than your merit, the things you've done in your life.
I feel like they both correlate with each other. So
which one do you think is more important? Your race or the things you've done in your life, your character?
The things I've done in my life or my race. Both correlate to each other because the things I have done in my life are because of my race, because I am a black woman.
The things I have done in my life, I did because I am a black woman. We just lost 40 years of Martin Luther King rolling in his grave. Oh my gosh. Judge me by the content of my character, not by the cut of my skin. The ignorance is astounding.
That's not answering the question.
Well,
it's not answering the question based on what you're saying DEI is.
You becoming...
Right? So DEI is basically saying that your race and your characteristics about you that are immutable, that you can't change, are more important than your merit and your character. So I'm asking you which one you think is more important. Your character and your accomplishments and your merit, or your race.
And I'm saying that because I am a black woman, what I have endured ties into my accomplishments in life. So, I'm confused.
She's about to impart some big wisdom. Because of what I've endured, it ties into who I am. She's about to tell us that she sailed here from Madagascar on the back of sea turtles. That's what she had to endure. She's about to impart on us the amazing story of triumph that she had as a woman immigrating to the U.S. No one knew if she was going to make it, but she pulled through. That's what we're about to hear.
Who's on your question?
No, it's a very simple question. It's just one or the other. Because that's what the colleges or your jobs or these kind of things are looking at, right?
It's both.
Well, it can't be both. Because that's not what DEI says. DEI basically says that regardless of your
Still waiting to hear about her amazing story of what she had to go through.
Merit, affirmative action, you might have the same test scores. I mean, this is what happened in the Harvard case where Harvard got sued. Because even though Asians were scoring 300 points better than black people on the SATs, they weren't getting in, the black people were getting in. Why does that make any sense? If they have equal merit, or if they have higher merit, but because they're not black. Is that fair?
Yes, but that's why we have DEI.
That is fair.
Yeah, that's why we have
Why
DEI.
is that fair? Why is it fair that an Asian person who does better than a black person on a test doesn't get in just because they're Asian? How is that fair?
Doesn't get in because they're Asian.
Yes.
But Asian is included in DEI.
Oh, Asians are the most successful group. They're not included in DEI. That's why the whole thing happened with the lawsuit.
No, but they are.
The DEI happens with black, Hispanic, Indian, basically.
And Asian.
What I'm saying is the lawsuit happened where Asians were scoring higher.
The lawsuit happened. That's
Yes,
not the
and they got
entirety of
sued.
DEI, though.
That is what DEI represents.
DEI
represents
the-
affirmative action, which says that we are giving people like you a leg up over other people despite their merit or character because of the color of their skin,
Because
their
they didn't
gender,
wanna
or their
take us before.
sexuality. What do you mean they don't want to take you
They
before?
didn't want to take us before because of our skin color, right?
Who didn't want to take you before?
They didn't want to give jobs to black people or
Who d-
Hispanic people.
Who didn't want to give jobs to black people?
The white people.
Since when?
Since when?
Since when?
Since slavery.
Since slavery.
Since slavery. This is the problem.
So you're
that has been
saying that
building
something
up
that
since
happened
slavery.
150 years ago has made it so that you need to have a leg up now?
Yes.
So the same for the Irish?
The Black
Asian-
Lives Matter
Asians,
movement
Chinese
happened
people
5
went through
years
some
ago,
of the
5,
worst.
6 years ago.
There was the Chinese Exclusion Act here in California that happened in this country. And now Chinese people are doing better than white people in this country. They had the exact same things that happened essentially with this discrimination and things going on as black people in this country. And yet they are surpassing black people, white people even, in so many different areas.
And that's
And why are
great
they
for
doing
them. But what about the people who are still being oppressed?
that? Who are those people?
The black people.
So what can you do that I can't do?
What can...
There's a lot of talking points. I see this all the time, and it's just kind of like the end of the discussion. I think maybe one time in my life I've seen this conversation actually progress somewhere, and it's with a friend of mine who actually brought some knowledge and information. You never will see this argument progress past, white people are discriminating. Oh, which white people? And they'll go, all white people. And you're like, great, okay. We can't get jobs. Oh, really? Who is not letting you get a job? And they'll go, people, companies. Which company? It ends there. There's nothing there. Oh my goodness. It's so hard to listen to. That's why I was never like a huge Charlie Kirk guy, because like I can't get through the videos. There's nothing there. Now, look, yes, they're on college campuses, blah, blah, blah. You can see these guys up on stages debating too. There's nothing there. It's so hard to watch. But the indoctrination that they have from their algorithm, from their school, from teachers it works. It works. They're indoctrinated. They're told what to think. And that's why you get so many people coming up with the microphone, not having anything to say, but talking anyways. They feel something because they were told to feel something. Ignorance masquerading as righteousness.
You're saying, what can I do
Yes.
that you can't
You're
do?
black, I'm white. What can you do that I can't do?
You
or
have
what
a
can
be-
I do that you can't do?
Well, as a white man, you have a better chance of getting a job than I do.
That is not true. That is literally the
Why is
entire
that not
point of
true?
DEI. DEI, I just proved it to you with the whole thing with Harvard. This happens all across the country with
You
affirmative
proved it to
action.
me at Harvard with Asian
Yes, but
people.
this happened. That's why they have a DEI department to make this happen.
Yes.
Because it's not based
So
on
how is
merit.
it
It is based
racist?
on your race. Because it's based on race and not on merit.
It's
That
racist
is
because
racist.
it's giving people a chance to get a job.
Lower performing people.
Lower performing
if I-
people. So
if-
you think that
so if you
people
owned
of
a
color are
business-
lower performing people?
Well, if they are lower performing, yes, they are. If you owned a business,
So lower performing people are
let me
people
ask you:
of
if
color.
you
Let me
if
just
you
get
had
that
a
straight.
business, if you had a business, would you want someone there whose skin color is like yours, or someone who's going to do a good job?
Someone who's going to do a job that I want them to do, regardless
Right.
of the race or skin.
There you go. Exactly. That's
Just defeated her entire argument. Systemic racism is blatantly active in our country. She has gone full circle and defeated her own argument to saying, I want someone who does a good job, and DEI is a bad idea. Oh my gosh. Talked herself in a full circle back to this and then swapped her view is incredible.
the whole point of DEI. DEI tells them it doesn't matter about what you do if you're going to be good at your job. It tells you, because you're black, you come and get the job over someone else just because you're black.
Right. But
which is racist.
okay. Hold on. Let me backtrack.
This is the same moment that we had with Jordan Peterson and that reporter on, was it No, it wasn't CNN because it was a British show, but same moment.
So we're saying DEI is racist. Can you go back to the Harvard point?
Sure, whatever, sure. We kind of already covered it.
Jeez, we're only halfway
Just
through.
explaining it to you. Right.
Can you explain what happened at the Harvard situation?
Right. So Harvard got sued for the DI and all this stuff, right? Asians were scorned.
So this is what I was talking about. She comes up feeling a certain way, but without any actual education or information on the topic. and just argues her feelings over what actually the truth is. And so now here we are 5 minutes into this video. She knows nothing, and she's having him educate her in the middle of the conversation on the topic. Oh, it's insufferable.
Up to 300 points higher on their SATs than people of other races, and yet the Asians were rejected while the people of other races were put forward.
Mm-hmm. And so
you see that
with DEI,
right? That is DEI in action.
Okay. And so with DEI, right? Let's say I'm put up against like someone who, let's say I'm put up against like a normal, like white person, like, right? Like I'm put up against you, like for a job.
Okay.
Okay. And do you have a degree, like in anything? Like, is your?
I do.
You have a specific,
Yeah.
What's your degree in?
Clinical psychology.
Clinical psychology.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's say we're applying for the same job. Okay. Who do you think they're more likely to choose?
The person who's a better candidate.
Based on who's a better candidate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or what they need for the job.
All right. And then are they going to choose? Okay. Well.
He should score a home run and just go, look, what are you into? Whatever she's into, let's just make something up, which is going to be offensive, and I don't care. She's into nails. She's great at doing nails, and they're both applying for a job at a salon. This is an, he could come up with and say, well, they're going to ask who's better at painting nails, and the answer is probably her, because she's studied it, or she's practiced it at home, or watched YouTube videos, or whatever it is, whatever made her good at the thing. Merit is what matters, but it's probably going to go a different route.
Because this can kind of interchange.
That's how it should be. I mean, it's very simple. If you own a business or you have a school or whatever it is, you should want the best person for the job.
Right.
Not because they're black, not because they're a woman, not because they're gay or trans. A real American doesn't care about any of that. They care about the fact that they'll do a good job.
They want to give people the chance who wouldn't typically get a chance to have, a job opportunity.
Okay, they want to give people the chance.
Right.
But
And
by
that
doing
includes, like,
so,
people with
you are
disabilities.
taking away someone else's chance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying you want to give someone else a chance, but by doing that, you are taking away someone's chance who actually worked harder than that person or is better than that person at these certain things that they're looking for. So you're two wrongs don't make a right.
Wouldn't that also be a problem of the job market?
What do you mean?
The declining rate in jobs.
Well, that goes back to illegal immigration and all these different kind of things. But there are jobs available in this country to be done. I would say that's somewhat irrelevant for the point that we're trying to make here. Back on track.
Well, no, it kind of does, because if there's enough jobs to go around, we wouldn't need DEI in the first place. But because there isn't enough jobs to go around, people...
Yeah, DEI has nothing to do with the amount of jobs that are available.
Well, no, but it does have something to do with the amount of people who are getting jobs.
It has to do with essentially racist practices like affirmative action, the DEI, not basing things on merit and basing them on immutable characteristics so they can make people feel better about themselves.
Okay. And so, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Okay. Because of the way that we've built the job systems and things like that.
Let's go to this. You're talking about black people, and they're going to get this chance that they haven't got before, and they need that chance, right? Well, why are black people right now struggling in this country? What would you say is the number one thing that's making them struggle in this country?
Well, because of the red line districts, they've separated black people into lower quality neighborhoods.
So you think redlining is stopping black people from getting a job?
I do, because you're putting them into these poverty neighborhoods, and then you're not giving them much to go and grow off of. Okay. And so they're not able to get a better education.
Yeah, this just goes back to the beginning. Drawing a line in the sand and saying you get this and you get this, and then you go to that school, you go to this school. You need a community. How do you do that? Well, it starts in the home. How does it start in the home? You have a mom and a dad. If you don't have that, you're starting off at a disadvantage. I keep saying this. I keep going back to this. Every time all this stuff about income inequality, all this racial stuff, this nonsense that comes up, dude, the first 18 years of your life are crucial to your development. You want to give somebody a good shot? Have them be raised in a home with a mom and a dad. And statistically, blacks have that the least of any group of races in our country. And that is a tragedy. We need to incentivize. Coming from a believer, the first priority is bring them Jesus. And if you can act in a way if you can act as Jesus' hands and feet and go out and serve these people and bring them that news and serve their community and show them this is how our family does it. And there's nothing to do with just, removing culture. And by the way, if your culture is our culture, we like to raise our children with a single parent, your culture is stupid and ignorant, and you're destroying your community, and you're going to stay that way for a very long time. You need a father, you need a mother, a male and a female. You need both. You need the dichotomy, the differences, the disparity. There's a difference between men and women. You need them both in the home. They both need to be present. That's it. If you're there, you're going to have a huge leg up on everyone else. If you don't, you're going to look for alternatives. Like she talked about earlier, gangs, which are apparently white people's problems. They're going to turn to the gang, and it doesn't get any better from there. They need a father and a mother. The father's going to keep him away from those kinds of groups. He's going to grow up and learn how to be a man. He's going to grow up and learn how to be respectable. And it is sad that these cycles repeat themselves and that our government is coming in and saying, hey, you want to be a single mom? We'll pay you. That is a tragedy. That is a injustice. I don't know whose idea that was. I know that it goes all the way back to the 80s, I believe. I think it had to do with a political election, and they had this grand idea of, supporting women on the government's dime. And the moment that happened, I've seen some political cartoons about it. It's the government taking place of a man, and it's not good. Same way if the government took a place of a woman, and you need both to serve these communities, and you're not going to be able to. That's the first block. That's the first building block to a community. You have a family. Everything else kind of stretches out from there. You break down the family. You break away from God, and then you break away from the family. Well, what are you left with? You're going to turn to a gang, or you're going to turn to a point that she was trying to make, which is, if you don't have any opportunities and everyone around you is just directionless, where do you turn? And yeah, that's a legitimate question. Well, it's kind of hard to blame some of these people that turn to crime. Now, you're still responsible. I believe that. You're still responsible before God for your actions. But it doesn't make it easier to choose the right thing when you can't, you have no direction in your life. You don't have a mom and dad to tell you, you need both. You need the structure.
So then how do Asian people get out of poverty neighborhoods?
Well,
how do white people get out of poverty neighborhoods?
Well, Asian people aren't put in the same group as the red light district.
Right, but they're still in all sorts of poverty, and they get out of these places of poverty. How do they do it?
But you're saying statistically, right? Black people have a harder time getting out of these poverty neighborhoods because the system is built
because
to put
there's a
them
black
down.
culture problem. There's a problem in the black culture.
In the black culture?
Yes.
What's the problem with the black culture?
Black fatherlessness.
Black father?
I just spent 10 minutes talking about that. I just spent 10 minutes talking about the single parent issue in the black community. This is exactly what I was talking about. You need a father, you need a mother, you need a family unit. The community will grow from there. If you don't have the basics, how do you expect to develop as a community? How do you expect anything to get better? These kids grow up without a dad. They don't have structure. They don't have discipline. They go off, they join a gang, or they get influenced by all their friends who are in a gang, or they get influenced by whatever happens to scroll across their feed. And they end up directionless with no real motivation to do or achieve anything, including, but not limited to, making a family of a man and a woman who stay together for their whole life, who are stable and support each other. That's what I was just saying. Thank you, Will. He'll do just fine at TPUSA.
Crime and these kind of things.
That's the second time
back in the 1960s, blacks were on track to surpass white people in economic growth. They were literally about to surpass us.
You know why people tore down black towns?
Why white? Say that again?
White people tore down black towns that were prospering so that we wouldn't prosper.
Oh, the affirmative action and all the civil rights and all those kind of things is what changed, and the black culture changed.
They wouldn't give these people those jobs. They wouldn't give them the opportunities, and so they were forced to go out and do drugs and.
That was kind of weird. He just ignored her. I know what she's referring to, and I don't remember the name of the town, but it's just a very ignorant way of going about an argument. If you don't know about the given topic or the data point, you don't start yapping your mouth. I know what she's referring to, but I don't know enough about the story. It was evil what was done, but it wasn't a nationwide epidemic. It happened to one town, and it's not a good story. It's a sad story, and she's right about that.
Or sell drugs to make a living for their families.
Forced to go out and sell drugs? Who's
What
forcing
other
you to go and
choice
sell
did they
drugs? Did you
have?
sell drugs? You're black.
That's a good point that she had. What other choice did they have? So it's in a way, in this few seconds here, there's some legitimacy to either party in that, one, they're directly related. They don't have any choice because they don't have a father. They're directionless. They don't know where to go. So they turn to the influences that are closest to them, which are kids, also directionless.
Do you sell drugs?
Are you assuming that I sell drugs because I'm black?
No, I'm asking you. You're saying this. You're saying that black people are forced to sell drugs.
I'm saying that some black people were forced to sell drugs back in the day because they were forced in the borderline, in the red line districts.
Okay, but not now. Are black people, are you forced to sell drugs?
Am I forced to sell drugs?
No one is forced to sell drugs. They can
Forced
go
to
and
sell-
change their lives. And if they want to make something of their life, they need to change in the black culture. That is where it comes from. I will give you that there are things that the government has done to African Americans in this country that I'm in the best. I'm with you on that, okay? It's not the greatest. But people can pull themselves out of despondency. And there's a black culture problem that our media proliferates and puts out there about baby mamas, all this kind of stuff.
That's the third time. What are they blanking there? That's the third time. That must be a YouTube thing. And I don't blame TPUSA's editing team. I blame YouTube because YouTube is evil. Just evil. They're evil to small creators. They're evil to anyone who goes against whatever political narrative they're following at that given time. They will destroy you and all your hard work. It's disgusting. I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen it in other creators. I saw it a lot during 2020.
Proliferates and puts out there about baby mamas.
What did he say there? Can we figure it out?
Makes the culture worse. About baby mamas.
Did he say gay marriage? I can't. Let's try one more time.
People can pull themselves out of despondency. And there's a black culture problem that our media proliferates and puts out there about baby mamas, all this kind of stuff that makes the culture worse.
I think he said gay men.
Baby mamas, all this kind of stuff.
Gay men, baby mamas, all this. That wouldn't make sense.
Proliferates and puts out there about baby mamas, all this kind of stuff that makes the culture worse.
I don't know what he said.
And if they were to change that,
I agree
it
with
would
that.
be better off. The black community would be better off.
Can we go back? Right there. Is there anything about that? Sort by no. No time. Only one timestamp. Yeah, I don't see anything. That's too bad. I can't figure it out. Let me know in the comments if you figure it out.
Baby mamas, all this kind of stuff that makes the culture worse. And if they were to change that,
I agree
it
with
would
that.
be better off. The black community would be better off.
But it's hard to change something when people have an opinion on you that is enforced by the government.
What
because
opinion
they're
is
not
that?
really doing anything to help out these communities
Wait,
by taking away
what opinion is that? What are you talking about?
that black because I'm or because hold on. So let me find a way to word this.
Because you're black what?
Because I'm black. Or because okay, sorry. Can you ask the question again? Sorry.
Well, you made the claim. You said that people think something about you because it's demanded by the government. What do we think about you?
Well, people think lower of black people. Just because of the
You guys think lower of black people? Oh, all white people here?
well,
No, of course not. Listen, you having that mindset of thinking that white people are out to get you and we think lower
well, I don't
of
think
you?
that you're all out to get me.
Well, of course not all of them, but you have this mindset that there's a systemic problem of racism that's mandated by the government and we're all out to get you and there's this racist boogeyman out there.
Look at her eyes.
You think that there's
Look at her condescending, I'm smarter than you eyes. Look at that. We've spent 10 minutes on this video. He's given her time to articulate an argument. Everything she's brought up was brought up fairly ignorantly. She uses broad, sweeping claims with generalized wording. Oh, it's hard to watch. And then look at the eyes. It's always this. I see this so often. It's this condescending, when you're a kid and you stole the cookies from the cookie jar, whatever. Your mom comes up to you and goes, "You're right. I did something wrong. Here you go." She's giving that look. Who are you to give that look? Your arguments got dismantled. By the way, and I defended some of the points that she had, even though she abysmally made these points. For 10 minutes now, you've been dismantled, and now you're condescending. When has this guy given a condescending look? This Will Witt? None at all. None at all. And yet here we are, losing an argument and giving a condescending look. That stuff just, oh my goodness. The arrogance. We've all been in a conversation where we're losing an argument. You need to take it with grace. Or be humble about it. I talk to a lot of people. Pretty much everyone I talk to is smarter than me. And I think that's a good place to be. You want to be surrounded by people that are smarter than you or further ahead. And so I'm grateful for that. I didn't get anywhere in my career without being surrounded by people way better than me at performing, at dancing. You want to be surrounded with those kind of people to make you better. Ugh. The look. I just can't get over it.
That's mandated by the government, and we're all out to get you, and there's this racist boogeyman out there. You think that there's a systemic problem of racism.
I do.
That keeps you down and stops you. When in reality, look at you. You're at this college, able to come to me and have this conversation with me right now.
Do you know how much I'm paying to be here?
Of course, you can't. Well, you're supposed to get it for free?
No, but do you think education should be lowered?
Well, of course. But that has nothing to do with racism.
Everyone can get an education?
Wait, what does this have to do with racism?
Well,
there are white people who go to school here too, and Asian people.
Oh, everyone.
And there's way more scholarships and things for people who are black than there is for a straight white male.
Yeah, but straight white.
Man, every point I've hit is echoed by Will, because he's in the moment, so it's harder to think in the moment. I'm outside of the moment. I could just pause, but that's so funny to me that both of the issues I hit on, the fatherlessness issue, culture being, in the culture, and the whatever he just said, I forgot.
Males are more likely to be able to afford college.
Okay, so
which is why there are more scholarships.
Their family made better choices. That's
so
why
you're
they're more likely
saying
to
that
be
black
able
people
to...
didn't make better choices?
Yeah.
It's the classic. So you're saying. So what you're saying is.
That's exactly what I just said. The black community has a culture problem that is making them make worse choices, and that we need to fix the black culture around these things, and the world would be better off. Black people would be better off.
Yeah, I concur. It sounds to a lot of, what do you even say? Comment sections, liberal comment sections, people that just get online and type. It sounds strange, but if you listen to the entire context, it's sad. And it's a scary thing, responsibility.
And that we need to fix
It's a really scary thing. I mean, you're, I don't know, a young 20-something kid. You knock up a girl. She's got a baby. That's a scary thing, I'm sure. The responsibility, the weight of it all. But that's what it's time to become a man and be about it. Anyways, lots of more news to cover. So this was the skit that we watched, the Druski skit. What else do we have here to cover? There's the Newsweek. Again, the look, the condescending look. Oh, it just makes me nauseous. Nothing from Erika Kirk on the Druski skit thus far. We're only a day into it. Here is Will Witt, who's the interviewer that we just were watching, or pardon me, the political commentator that we were just watching. Here is Will Witt 6 months ago on Charlie's passing. And 6 months later, we see Will Witt go live on the TPUSA YouTube channel. I think he's a great fit. I hope that he sticks around. If not full-time, full-time would be great. I don't know what's going on with his life. He was a great creator back 5-10 years ago. I was a big fan of him. I guess he disappeared and wrote some books and he came back, but this was him 6 months ago. I'm hoping that he sticks around. I'm curious to see what he has to say about remembering his friend Charlie Kirk. I think he's a great fit to, no one's replaceable, but to replace the role that Kirk had in TPUSA. Let's see what Will Witt had to say.
Joining me now is Will Witt, a former Turning Point USA employee and friend to Charlie Kirk. Will, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So you grew up and went to college in Colorado, but you eventually found yourself working for Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA. What can you share with us about your relationship with Charlie?
Back in 2015, 2016, when I was getting started in all of this and I was dropping out of college, I found out about Turning Point USA and found out about Charlie, who was just kind of starting out at that point, and he was a complete and total inspiration for me. He was someone who wasn't afraid to say what he thinks. I think one thing about kind of the political movement now is you have a lot of fakes in it. A lot of people who say, oh, I can get famous by being conservative or by being a political person and just saying the talking points. That was never Charlie. Charlie was always genuine. He always believed every single thing that he said, and he was so well educated on it, and his ability to speak with people was unparalleled, and to see him and everything that he did was truly an inspiration. He was a great friend. At the beginning, I was still a student, actually. So Turning Point has these things called campus coordinators, and along with maybe 8 or so other students, were the first campus coordinators Turning Point USA ever had. And so he was, in that sense, he was like a trainer in a way. He taught us about the ideas that were important for America. In that sense, he was like a trainer. In a way, he taught us about the ideas that were important for America. He taught us how to talk to people on our campus.
So I'm curious if he trained them one-on-one in person or if it was like an over the internet thing. I guess this was early on.
Is how to do events, how to make a splash in everything that you're doing, and that was invaluable. And then I became a field rep for Turning Point USA and traveled around Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming starting chapters, and he would come and speak at the schools and come to some of the events that we did and come and talk to the students on campus. And he was a bulwark, that guy. He was doing so many things all at once, and everybody loved him.
So if you're just tuning in, big Druski skit dropped yesterday. A lot of people offended. It was a Druski skit where he portrayed and made fun of Erika Kirk. Of course, the internet is ablaze talking about that. So we went from that to TPUSA, and TPUSA has just recently, as of yesterday, so two events in one day. Yesterday, TPUSA posted 2 videos with Will Witt on their channel. So that's how we're kind of down this proverbial rabbit hole, but it's connected. So all surrounding Charlie Kirk, all surrounding TPUSA. A couple more news items too.
Let's forget about the political figure for a moment. Let's forget about who he voted for, what he believed in, what he didn't believe in. What can you tell us about Charlie Kirk, the man, the friend?
He was steadfast, and that's something that I think is really not looked at or talked about so much in a lot of people, but he was always genuine, and he was always telling people not what they needed to hear, not what they wanted to hear, but the truth. And being a truth teller is such a rare thing in this day and age. And again, this isn't just even political. This is advice. This is business. This is friends. He was always going out of his way to talk to people in a very genuine and kind manner. And you don't really find that in the political world whatsoever. He was a rare type of person in that, and he was always looking out for the people who were close to him, and even people who weren't that close to him. He was doing everything he could to be a great friend to everyone.
All right, there they are together. So, just for the clip later, we'll make a quick summary here. Will Witt pictured left and Charlie Kirk pictured right. Will Witt has been in pardon me. Scratch that. Try it again. Take 2. Will Witt is in the news. He is a popular creator from 5-10 years ago, created a popular following on TikTok. I actually don't know about TikTok. Instagram for sure. Used to see him a lot. And he has been in 2 of TPUSA's videos recently, as of yesterday. Now, Charlie Kirk obviously getting shot, so he can no longer hold that role. I think Will is a great candidate to take over the role at Prager, or not Prager, you goodness gracious, on the screen there at TPUSA. He's soft-spoken, he's articulate. I think he did a good job with the 2 videos that we just watched. And if you want to watch more, twitch.tv/Captain Nemo. That's where we're at, going through some of the videos that he's putting out.
What does Charlie Kirk's assassination do for the state of America's political divide?
It's hard to know exactly what's going to happen now, but like over the past day after I've been talking about this and putting videos out, I've received more death threats and wish it was you too and you're next type of messages than I've ever received in my life. And to see that that's the case is, first of all, terrifying, but also it means we can't stop. It means that there is no stopping and saying, well, we let these people win, these evil people. We have to continue to fight and make sure that the ideas that Charlie believed in continue to be spread across America. I know he wouldn't want us to stop, and I don't think that people are going to now after this has happened.
All right. It's getting a little slow, a little dry. It's a good interview. You can watch it on your own time. We're going to move on to one of my favorite topics. UFC Seattle taking place, going live at 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern. Joe Pyfer, Israel Adesanya going head-to-head in the main event tonight, and I am excited for a striker's delight. 2 killers head-to-head. Here are some Joe Pyfer reacts to his greatest finishes. We've got a lot to cover. A lot of videos have been released. Let's see what happens.
I step here to win! USA, motherfucker!
Yeah, I said something along the lines about, USA, motherfucker. What's up, guys? This is Joe Pyfer, and we're going to break down each one of my finishes.
Joe Pyfer believes that he is better than Amadovsky everywhere, and he has never been hit by anyone that has the crack of Joe Pyfer.
And I just remembered, we need to clip off YouTube. YouTube, if you want to watch this, we're live at twitch.tv/Captain Nemo. We're also live on Kick. So if you want to join us live, make sure you join there. I'm going to cut it off here because this YouTube video is very long, and I don't want to make the VOD too long for YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed the coverage of the Erika stuff, the Charlie Kirk stuff. I am working on a documentary about Charlie Kirk and his life, his influence, the truth, the whole story. And if you like MMA documentaries, all of that will be available, will be available at Owen Lee Productions on YouTube. It's at Owen Lee Productions. You can go to youtube.com/at Owen Lee Productions. You can see documentaries about a bunch of my favorite fighters: Alex Pereira, Dustin Poirier, Merab Dvalishvili, Israel Adesanya, who will be taking on Joe Pyfer as pictured above. All of those documentaries are available at Owen Lee Productions. I hope you join us. YouTube, we will see you later. And